Good morning, good morning. Please grab your coffee. My name is Jennifer Tom,
And I'm Darlene Ruffle.
and it's Wednesday. I am so excited because, friends, we just love all the comments. And I have a friend who said, Jen, quit being excited every Wednesday. Or Dan say it so many times. And I have to tell you, when I say that, I mean I'm grateful. And this month, we've been talking about gratitude. Oh, it's been so powerful.
Yes, it has.
Do you have any comments, darling?
I just love our quote, so I'm going to share it with you right away.
Yes.
And that quote, I'm just going to grab it right away, is my favorite from this month. And that is gratitude turns what we have into enough.
I love it. Gratitude turns what we have into enough. We have enough, right? And we're here.
Yep.
That's enough.
That's enough. We're enough.
I love it. I love it. And today I really wanna share that we have a special guest. But before we introduce you to our special guest, because she is amazing, I want to say that from reading, remember we share lessons learned through life and loss. I have to share something. So I know I'm just gonna repeat this. So last week we decided this month's theme will be gratitude. And then I have a friend of mine, Tammy Evans. I'm giving you a shout out. She runs the Be Well group. Check it out. She says, let's all read this book. It's called The Magic. And this book, it's all about gratitude. And one thing I took from the book that I really need to share, I did not know this actually. It says, taking things for granted is a major cause of negativity. How many of us sometimes get negative? Yes, it's because we don't have, we take things for granted. So because we are taking things for granted, we are not giving thanks in return. So my friends, are you grateful for your health today? Are you grateful for your health when it's good? Or do you only notice your health when your body gets sick or hurt?
Yeah, wow. That's so true.
So I put on my alarm, some new habits every time. Sometimes we need to be reminded. I put it on my alarm this month about the health thing to be reminded. So my alarm comes up, and this is what I say. The gift of health is keeping me alive. Thank you. The gift of health is keeping me alive. My friends, I just had to share that because it's been powerful. I see you there. Please give us a thumbs up if you're listening and if you're liking what we're saying. Who knew about negativity and gratitude together? Okay, let's go. Let's go. Another thing, are you grateful for your job every day? Or do you only value your job when you hear there'll be cutbacks? Oh, right? Whether it's a job, whatever you're doing, let's just be grateful. Another one, are you grateful for your pay or salary every single time you receive it? Or do you take your pay or salary for granted? Are you grateful for your loved ones when everything is running smoothly? Or do you only talk to others about your loved ones when there are problems? My friends, we're learning together how to be grateful. And that's why this month has been so powerful about gratitude. And I hope and pray that we all got something from it. And now, because we could talk all day, because I get too excited, Annette, I'm going to turn it to Darlene.
Okay, so we're going to introduce our guest. So our guest today is Amanda Goodnougn. She is a trauma-informed social worker who has over 20 years of experience navigating both nonprofit and government sectors. She is passionate about helping people problem solve through strategic communication. In February 2020, Amanda stepped into the role of Executive Director of the Spec Association of Brooks, Alberta, which has provided her opportunity to grow in organizational leadership. She is married with 3 teens, has a dog, a cat, a gecko, and is a closet introvert who loves nothing more than to sit and read for hours at a time.
I love this girl.
Welcome, Amanda.
Hello.
We are so glad to have you.
Thank you for having me.
I am grateful for my friendship with Amanda. We have known each other for a little while.
A little while.
And I think what I appreciate about Amanda, I'm grateful for, is her passionate not only to help people but to learn and to and to take things. She just takes things and goes with them. And I remember when I first started working with Amanda, she wasn't so happy about all my policies and procedures. But you know what? She has learned, and now she is the organizational leader. So it's so amazing, Amanda.
The irony never disappoints. I still refer to the reason policies are so great. I hated them, but Darlene taught me when I first moved to Brooks, the answers are always in the policies.
Okay, I have to just interrupt and say, friends who are watching, I am thankful today to be surrounded by 2 social workers who are amazing. And I'm excited, Amanda.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
You know it.
So we're so happy. So we'll just start with you sharing about gratitude. So our first question is, what is the best thing that's happened this week?
Okay, now my husband's in a meeting, so he can't hear me right now. Because if he did, he'd be offended that I didn't say him winning a seat on city council. That wasn't the best thing that happened to me this week. It's probably the best thing that happened to him this week. I find when it comes to gratitude, one of the difficulties for me is that I have a terrible memory. I remember some things, I don't remember other things, like what I did yesterday or the day before. So I had to look to see, I don't know what happened this week. And then I can see what the best things were. And, last week, it seems like a long time ago, but I got a turkey dinner from Duchess, which was awesome. And I didn't cook it, and it was amazing. I got to go to Red Deer for a women's conference and talk about joy and gratitude, ironically. And but I think, for me, it's kind of a funny thing. It goes with my part of me that likes to read. And I have this odd hobby that I started a website to talk about books that I read, because that's how much I like to read. And I actually had somebody who I respect quite a lot ask me if I'd like to do monthly book recommendations and videos, which that part scares me a little bit because they're videos. But I had to say, when I had to think what was the best thing, that was definitely, I think for me personally, that was pretty exciting, because I do really like to talk about books. And so, it's been a week, I tell you.
Yeah. So share with us what impacts you about books. Like why do you like reading books?
I don't know. That's like a therapy issue, I'm pretty sure.
Is it therapy?
Exactly. I think as a kid, I really liked to read. I remember I started reading Nancy Drew books, which high quality stuff there, maybe not as appropriate nowadays, but high quality at the time. And Little House on the Prairie and, you know, all of these different books that let me experience life in different ways. And I've always been somebody that I like to observe. I may not always do all the things, but I do like to know about them and how people feel about them. And books always kind of open that up. And then over the last couple of years, changing that into a lot of leadership development and personal development. You know, how can we be better, and how can we help the people around us to be better? And, you know, it's just, you can learn so much. And I really like that. And I just really like sitting, and sitting and reading go really well together. So
It's amazing. So if you haven't checked out her website, it's Amanda Goodnough.
it's just amandagoodnough.com. I'm not very creative. That's why I read books.
So yeah, so check it out and see. There's some great books on there. Yeah, that's a great hobby.
Somebody asked me once if they were all the books I read or ones that I recommended, and I was like, oh dear, no, not all the ones I read, just the ones I would recommend other people read. I've read a lot of stuff that I wouldn't recommend other people read.
That's amazing, Amanda. And our friends who are watching, if you have a book that you'd recommend, please post it on our chat, because today we've just been grateful that we have Amanda as our guest who loves to read, and she can share a few of the books she's read. I do like audiobooks, and I know this is not the conversation for here. We'll talk about it later. But we're so grateful for you. So what keeps you, sorry, that's the wrong question. How do you overcome the challenge of being grateful, Amanda? Do you want to repeat that, darling? You say it nicely, darling.
How do you overcome the challenge of being ungrateful?
Yeah.
You know, I wish I had a really inspiring way, but, you know, really just practice. You have to do something over and over in order for it to stick. It generally doesn't feel natural or real at the beginning. One of my favorite mottos is fake it till you make it. And, you know, and I find that works for a lot of things. And, you know, sometimes I've just, you know, I've done where, you know, like I'm gonna pretend I'm a person that's grateful. What would a person that's grateful say right now? And it makes you think outside of yourself, because a lot of times you go and you're like, well, I don't have anything to be grateful for. This isn't good. This isn't good. You know, I think of, you know, somebody that I know that's really positive, somebody like Jennifer. I do know some positive people, and where I would think, what would they say here? And then you kind of hear their voice in your head, which then gives you the words, which again gets me through life a lot. So, you know, yeah, it might not feel real and it might not feel authentic, but I think sometimes we get stuck on being authentic and to our own detriment. And I think it's okay not to be authentic when you're first learning something. It doesn't feel good. It doesn't feel natural, but you practice it and you keep doing it. One of my favorite verses that I've started trying to say in the morning to assist me in the morning, but is Psalms 118:24. And it says, "This is the day that the Lord has made. Let us rejoice and be glad in it." Because mornings are just not my best. They're not my favorite. They never have been. I hoped that I would get over it. I have not. You know, and so just even while I'm maybe saying it in a grumpy voice, but, you know, this is the day that the Lord has made, you know, so I will rejoice. It is going to be a good day. As I drink my coffee. Again, sometimes you just keep trying your best.
Yeah, those are some amazing points. I love practice, right? Is that we're not always good at it to start with.
Yes.
And also looking at it from someone else's perspective. If you just want to find some positive, just talk to Jen, and she always like, "Good morning, it's going to be a great day." And I'm like, "Okay, what's she thinking?" But that, and I also like what you said about when we have hard times, like when we have times in our life when we aren't grateful, like you getting up in the morning. That's a time to practice gratefulness, right? And and it is a practice, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
I have good mornings, but in the evenings, I am just not always grateful. I'm tired and not always grateful. So I'm going to have to switch that around to be grateful. Yeah.
I love this, ladies. I love it. And I just want to make it clear. I wasn't born like that, okay? Practice. So, and I learned this from lessons learned in life. What I mentioned Wayne Dye every time on our grief talk. He taught me, when you put your foot on the ground, when you wake up, just say thank you. Because most times we take it for granted that we actually woke up. And when we don't take things for granted, grateful heart.
Right.
Things go wrong in my life.
Yeah.
Some things don't go as planned, but I keep saying it's going to be a great day. Because you all agree that in the chaos, especially even now, what's happening in the world, in the chaos, in the midst of everything, we can find one thing we can be grateful for. And so I just encourage our viewers, tell us one thing you're grateful for today, right? Like even now, just being, let's say our technical stuff didn't work, whatever, name it, things could go wrong, but what are we grateful for today and now? Susan, thank you for sharing and tuning us and joining us today. So here's a question, Amanda. Could you just make a comment for this? I didn't write this, but I read it on my book just for you, Amanda. Taking things for granted results in complaining. Taking things for granted results to complaining. What's your comment on that?
That is true. It does, because when you take it for granted, you're not noticing the good things, and I think that's such a key part of being grateful is you have to notice things, you have to look for things. It actually is a little bit of work. Again, I don't know anyone that just magically is happy all the time, because they invented drugs for that, and even those don't work really well. So I think it does. And then when you're not seeing those things, you're not being aware, you're not looking for them, then the alternative is that you're going to complain. You're going to, man, nothing's good. That person looks good. That person looks good. And there's a quote from Theodore Roosevelt where he says, comparison is the thief of joy. And I think it goes along with that, because it does. It brings that. When you're complaining, it's really because you've looked at something else that you don't have, or you're, however that looks. And it does. It takes your focus off of the good, and it steals your joy.
I love that comparison. And also it brings us to the present, right? When we are ungrateful, like at least when I'm not thinking about something, or when I'm thinking about something and I'm not grateful, I'm usually thinking about everything that went wrong in the past, or what could go wrong in the future, and you don't live in the present. And so again, when you're grateful, it brings you back to the present. And just like you said, it makes you aware. Because when you're unaware, it's easy to complain. It's easy to be ungrateful. But when you're aware, it brings us back to the present, and we can be thankful for life, for friends, for just everything that we have. Then gratefulness, then gratitude makes it more than enough for us.
Yeah.
Oh, I love that. I love that. Amanda, I know you have a story for us. Please share with us. About being grateful. And if Amanda, it's so powerful to watch you, Amanda, where you are right now, to where you used to be, to your family, to your husband. And we don't take this lightly. We are from Berks-Albatter, and Amanda's husband is the deputy mayor. And we congratulate you and your family. And we are so proud. Like, that's called grit, because when we serve and when we show up to our community, we're able to serve others, right? So we don't take that for granted. We are so grateful for you and your husband and your family for leading, being leaders in our community. Please share a little bit. I need to hear this story because this is really good.
Jen, I always have stories about all kinds of things. So if you were looking for a particular one, I don't know, but I've always got one. As I was thinking about gratitude and what that looks like, and I was thinking about, the question, what's the importance of gratitude, in my life? And it was like the first thing that came to me, which sounded a little depressing, but it was just, without gratitude, I have nothing. Without gratitude, the world is dark and empty and hopeless. And, and I've spent a lot of seasons in my life in these little places, and I'm not a fan. I'm just not a big fan of those. I don't do well. I don't just muddle through. If I go down, I go down pretty hard and pretty fast. And, for a lot of people, they may not recognize, we all have a story, and we all come from somewhere. And, for me, I've struggled with clinical depression since I was 16. And I've been on medication pretty much that entire time, except, of course, when I thought I was fine and would stop taking it, because everyone should do that periodically just to realize that you're not fine and you should keep taking it. That's a joke. Don't stop taking your medication. But I don't like those. I don't like those places. I find that intentionally practicing gratitude, it helps to rewire your brain. And there's a lot of really smart people that can explain it well, how your brain can be rewired, and how there's pathways and all those things, which I'm not even going to pretend to know about. But it results in more joy, and it results in less stress. And I found early on that in order for me to function relatively well, I have to really take care of myself and take care of that I don't get overwhelmed, that I don't get stressed, because it does happen really easily. And once it's one of those kind of cliffs that once you're over, it's really hard to get back up. And so I work very hard at, okay, where am I? The idea of gratitude and mindfulness, they work so closely together. And it's just taking that step to say, what's going on right now that is good. Sometimes with my family, like, let's be honest, sometimes your family's annoying. You can't, unless I'm just a terrible person, which is possible, but sometimes they just are. Like, we go on family trips and I would really want them to be good, and they would not always be good. And I'd be so frustrated after. And then I would talk to them and they'd say, like, oh no, that was so great. I'm like, I don't know what trip you were on, but the one I was on was not great. But I realized, I was looking for what wasn't there, those expectations, that I had heard somewhere about, and I can't even remember, but something along the lines of, disappointment, frustration. It comes from unmet expectations. And I think when we have those expectations on things, we don't even know we have them. And so what I started doing now is, when I am annoyed about things, as that happens sometimes, I make myself stop and, like, okay, what did I expect was going to happen that I'm upset about this result? Because it's, usually I'm quite surprised. Oh, that's awkward. I didn't go into it meaning to expect those things, but it steals the joy from what you're doing. And so we tend to remember the bad things that happen, and then the time we spend thinking about them makes us unhappy. But if we work hard to remember those positive things, and so I do things like, I take pictures of events, because we have a joke in my house that if I didn't take a picture, it didn't happen, because I'll forget about it. So I need a picture to remember I was here. But I keep those things around me so that when I'm looking, I can look and like, wow, I did some things. I've been some places. And and life is good, and God is so merciful. And it changes how you see the world around you, which then in turn changes you.
Mic drop.
Yeah, that was amazing. Thank you so much for sharing and being vulnerable and sharing about expectations, because that's something we don't think about, right? That when we are frustrated, often it's about unmet expectations. And that's actually a grief process, right? Part of unresolved grief is when we have expectations that have never been met, but we've never been aware of them, so we can be sad, or actually look and see if they were realistic expectations, because sometimes we have all these expectations about what the perfect vacation, right?
Yeah.
And then when it doesn't happen, right, we're frustrated. But yeah. And thank you just for being vulnerable about your life and how you your challenges, and because I think that brings hope when we can bring things into the light. And when we have positive stories about people who are grateful and have worked through things, those are amazing stories. So thank you so much for sharing.
Thank you, Amanda. This was so good. And thank you for sharing from the heart. And I hope our friends out there who joined us or who will be listening on podcast later, please listen with the heart, with ears. I love that saying. Most times we try to listen with our intellect, doesn't work. But when we switch it and listen with the heart, with ears, you feel it, you get it. So before we close, because we need to respect Amanda's time, I just want to close it with this because I love this. So did you know it's impossible to be negative when you're grateful? Who knew? Okay. So it's impossible to be negative when you're grateful. It is impossible to criticize and blame when you're grateful. I didn't know that. So that's another one. And it's impossible to feel sad or have a negative feeling when you're grateful. And the best news is that if you have any negative situations, like we all do in your life, currently especially, it won't take a long period of time to transform them with gratitude. Okay? So the negative situations will disappear. Puff of smoke, right? So when we find the good in every situation, the negative emotions will disappear. So I'm wishing you all a puff grateful month. This has been just an amazing month of gratitude. If you have any topics you'd like us, because we're doing a theme every month, if you have some ideas of a topic you'd like to hear, we are just being so blessed and thankful for our guests sharing with us and having this month, because we're able to dig deeper and get an understanding. So let's all be grateful despite everything. So thank you, Amanda. Thank you always for joining us. And check out our website for more resources. Till next Wednesday. Bye.